Hey guys, it's Maymay, and today we start a new series that I like to call Stampin' Saturday. And this is a series where I'm going to take stamps from my stamp line and give you some inspiration. So many people ask me to show different ways to use the stamps that they purchase from our store, and I hope this will help you with that. Today's inspiration is going to be something I like to call Sepia Coloring. Now I'm using my Spectrum Noir markers, but you could use your Copics or any alcohol marker where you have a blender pen. Notice what I'm doing. I've stamped the truck onto some craft colored cardstock. Then I took a marker from my Spectrum Noir collection that is slightly darker than the craft cardstock. I'm working in the shadows of this image. Anywhere there would be a shadow, I'm just going to color it with this darker marker. Now this is not going to be a perfect shade match, and I'm not worried about that. I just picked the color in my collection that was the closest. I do believe it was GB10. Now I'm going to take the colorless blender, and I'm going back over where I colored in the shadow. What this is going to do, it's going to soften the edge of that first marker that I put down. It's not going to perfectly blend it, it's just going to soften the edge. And in the end, we'll get sort of an antique coloring look. I really like this, and it only takes one color marker and one blenderless marker to get this look. I've done this before in a video last year. I'll link it below this video so you can check it out as well, where I did pretty much the same thing just on a different image from my stamp sets. Now what I'm doing is working in the shadows. I talked about this a second ago. Wherever there is a shadow that would live on this truck, this is where I'm going to put the darker color. I'm not putting anything in the lighter areas. Although it's going to look like I'm taking the blender pen to those lighter areas on purpose, really all I'm doing is making sure that I put the same amount of liquid on my page everywhere I go. So in other words, when I blend out with that colorless blender, I want to color in that entire section so nothing looks splotchy. So just using that blender all the way across. Again, this does not do a perfect blend. You're going to be able to see kind of marker spots and things like that, but it leaves such a cool effect behind. With this kind of process is one of those things I want to tell you. It is ugly before it is pretty. I promise. You're going to be like, this is not working. This is not how it looked when she finished her card. And trust me, it is not going to be pretty until you're done. But when you're done, you're going to think, now that's a pretty neat idea. And it works perfect with this truck, because this truck in my mind is the perfect antique truck. Now I'm going to speed it up a little bit and let you guys watch me color, and I'll get back with you when we start on our next step. As I start to color the shadow underneath the truck, I do this because I don't want the truck to be kind of suspended in space. So I'm using the very same color. I have not changed the marker at this point, and I'm drawing in just a rough shadow under the truck. Now I do decide I want to take a second color to kind of blend that darkest shade down on the page. So I use my same Spectra Noir markers, and I just pick a color that is a little lighter than the one I was using originally. This time I use GB8. I take that color and I just mix it in with the shadow that I did underneath the truck, and it just kind of pulls it down and makes it kind of disappear for us. I don't stop here. I do again go back with my blender pen and just kind of blend all of that together just to kind of give it a good base under the truck. Red, green, and my blender pen, and the presents from the same stamp set of the truck. By the way, that stamp set is called Memory Lane, and I'll make sure I link it below. Now, I stamped the presents to go in the back of the truck, and I want them to look worn and ragged and antiqued, but I wanted a little bit of color. So I took that red and again played where the shadows would be. I did that with the green as well, and I mixed the two colors, and only where the shadows would be. I used the blender pen to kind of pull them together into the middles where I'm leaving it kind of open for some light, but really I'm just playing with these colors. I'm letting it bleed outside the packages, everything, because I'm going to cut those out. I'm going to fussy cut them to go into the back of the truck, but I just wanted some of that antique wash of almost peeled paint looking color, if that makes sense. I wanted it to feel just as antique as the truck itself. And here it looks like I'm really scrubbing the page very hard, but I'm not. I'm just running over everything and blending everything in kind of a colorful mess. I think it turned out really good. I like the way the packages look. And here you see, this is why I wasn't concerned about going outside the edges, because I'm going to cut it out completely. I take my time and I fussy cut the edges, and I love how these little packages turn out in the end. Now these guys are going to live in the back of our pickup truck, which I think is precious. And I just took some art glitter glue and glued them straight down to the page. I didn't worry about lifting them up or anything. Now for more fun. I thought this needed snow, so I dug into my embossing folder collection and I pulled out the Swiss dot folder. I'm only going to emboss kind of the top 3/4 of the card front because I'm going to add a sentiment right above the truck, so I thought I'd leave that part kind of blank. So I'm lining up this little Swiss dot embossing folder and I'm going to run it through my Cuttlebug. Now this works perfectly, except for the fact that the snowflakes, when they come out, although they're kind of not snowflakes, they're dots, don't exactly look like snowflakes. But we're going to fix that because I think this is a cool trick. Now this is some white ink from Brutus Monroe. It's called Alabaster Ink, and I'm taking the lightest hand you can imagine, and I am barely allowing that ink pad to kind of kiss those raised dots and grab that white ink. And you see how I'm moving the page around, but I am barely touching the page. So I just allow those dots to turn white and start to look like some antique snow. Again, I'm not going for perfect, so I can just kind of play here because I want this rugged antique look to match the truck. I kind of turn the page, turn the ink pad, and just allow it to touch. Now you don't have to be perfect. If you miss some of the dots, it really doesn't matter because we're kind of going for that look anyway. But I really like how it turned out. Now I feel like if there's snow falling from the top, it needs to land on the truck. So I take my white Uniball gel pen and I just play around on all of the edges where I think snow might have accumulated. Now I'm from Alabama, so it's hard for me to imagine what snow looks like, but I try. So I go around the truck and I add it here and there, and I just really think it causes that truck to just pop. I love how the snow ended up looking on the truck. Now I decide it's time for a sentiment, and I go back to the same stamp set and pull out the sentiment that says sending loads of warm holiday wishes. And I'm going to use the same white Alabaster ink to do this stamping. Now notice I'm using my mini Misty. I really think when I'm using this white ink, this is the perfect way to stamp, because notice it's a little pale and I wanted it to be darker than that. So by using the Misty, I can stamp it multiple times and get whatever depth of ink color I'd like. So I actually ended up stamping this about 3 times because I thought it was prettier. The more I did it, the better it looked. Now we just make a card. So I'm going to adhere my card front to a white card base that's cut 1/16 of an inch bigger. I just wanted a tiny white border around our image there because I thought the white helped all the white on the page to really pop. Then I take my favorite brown cardstock, and I think brown is perfect. It just feels antique to me, and so I glue the whole thing straight down to the brown card base. I love it. By the way, this is an A2 size card we created, and I think that stamp fills up an A2 size card base perfectly. Now the last step for me is to add some Wink of Stella. And honestly, I think the Wink of Stella looks amazing on this craft color cardstock. You can see it so well. And I took it everywhere the glass on the truck was, and I also kind of went over those presents and things just to give it a shimmer. Anywhere you want to add a little shimmer, the Wink of Stella is perfect. I hope you guys enjoyed our very first Stampin' Saturday video. This is fun for me to get to play with my stamp sets and kind of mix them up and show you guys kind of what I had in mind as I was creating the stamp sets. So be with me every Saturday at noon. We'll be doing a different card, using different stamps, mixing them up, all that good stuff. There's links below to all of my social medias as well as my .com store if you're interested in picking up any of the products I use today. Thanks so much for watching, guys. See you again real soon. Bye-bye.